Alright, so here we go. This will be the first video on the 1956 Buick Dynaflow. So we have our stripped down case all cleaned up, bushing and all in. It's where all of the magic starts. Boom. Dynaflow. Alright, so leaking fluid, slipping. Show you what we got here. So this ridge is gnarly. The washer, which I'll show you where this goes in another video, that thing cut down like a beast. New old stock drum. Check this bad boy out. Man. Perfection. So what we're going to do is show you how this drum goes together. Now, obviously she was burnt up. No bueno. Not good at all. So, got everything apart. Sealing ring, inner, outer, all the components. We're going to start with this drum and I'll explain this as we go. So, this drum is the only clutch drum in a Dynaflow. So, this is actually the high-low drum. Now, what that means basically is direct through happens when the clutches are applied internal. When the band grabs the outside of this, it becomes low range. The clutches are not applied. So, we're going to get on with this here. Now, the sun gear and the reaction plate, okay, this obviously goes inside the only planetary set this thing has. This spins with the drums lugged off these little half circle things. We'll get to that when I assemble it. The clutches and steels lug inside. The hub, the clutches index, is splined to the input shaft itself. So the input's going to turn this, and this will be held and rotated with the drum when the clutches are, well actually when the drum spins, this is spinning. With the clutches applied on the inside, this is actually turning the pinions on the planet, and I can get into this later. The drum itself is turned obviously off of this, and that shaft also carries back further into the unit. Hence, two sets of splines, as we can see. So, basically, when this drum is applied and the clutches inside are applied, it locks the planetary set where it rotates as one. Unless it's in low range, unless it's in reverse. So keep that in mind. Alright, so this drum actually came with the internal snap ring, or a sealing ring I should say. We're going to run the latest in it because, and these are the hook style ends. I don't know if we can see that or not. There is a groove way down below where the snap ring groove is. So that is going to go around just like any other hook style. Put it around, boom, she's in the groove. Hook the end, rock and roll. The piston that applies up on the clutches. Got a new seal. Obviously, wider, shallow. The skirt goes towards the thinner down here. Yee-haw. Alrighty. There we go. She is on there. Look at that. Rock and roll, alright? Got to get our lick 'em stick 'em going on here. And this car came in leaking and slipping like crazy. So here we are. It had other issues as well that I will get into in the other videos. We're going to try to do this component by component. And you will have to use a lip seal tool around this thing. Boom. Piston fully seated. Monstrosity here is the return spring that keeps the piston away from the clutches until they're applied, and it overcomes spring tension, applies clutches. Does not matter how she goes, but she's tight. Spring retainer dished, obviously goes down to center in the spring. And there's our snap ring. So, and these transmissions have 2 bands in them, 1 set of clutches, and a very interesting fluid coupler, which, again, in another video, we'll get into all that. Let's see here. This is a little bit sketchified. And the reason I say this is that spring collapses so, I mean, you got to compress it so much that it's sketchy. So hopefully we're fine. I do not like doing these because of the nature of these springs. And they collapse, they have to compress so far. I remember taking this apart, it was just like, Jesus, this is nuts. But the good thing, it'll all be caught on camera, right? Do not like compressing these springs at all. Probably the most dangerous of any automatic I think I've ever done. It's just not fun. You want to try to center as much. Oh Lord. Lord help me. These are like a Pinto coil spring. So close. Oop. Don't shoot out now. Man, these are, you got to be super careful with these. Oh, come on now. Because they don't give you much to compress this down with, unfortunately. Oop, almost. Alright, that is get sketchy. So there she is loaded in there, ready to rock. Alrighty, so, moving right along. Next thing, load the drive portion of this. So we have our clutches, which this one was 5. We put a clutch in first, and we'll turn this bad boy back around him. So, clutch goes in first, and a steel, and a clutch, and a steel, clutch. What you can do, go ahead and have this son of a gun loaded down. Now the washer, we're replacing all of our washers in this. So it's actually got a washer, sits on the top side, not the open, but the top. You can already have this. There to make that a little bit simpler, right? Again, this was a 5 clutch. So there's that. So there's our loaded hub assembly. Of course, turns inside. My clutches I do wet. You can see they're alternated. Yeehaw. Thing to note, the little half circles. That's what indexes all this. So you have your drum, this. And this is a little bit schnurg. Ideally, then you got to rotate to line up your half circles there, as you can see. Boom. Take 6 of these little pucks, as I call them. I'm sure they call them something a bit more elaborate. They do not have to go a certain way, up, down, doesn't matter. They literally just sit. I find a pocket screwdriver helps these things to go in place, usually without a lot of fuss. A thing to keep in mind, this is a new old stock drum. So they're not going to fit just as simply as most. Oh, this thing does not like me. It doesn't like my pocket screwdriver. One more. Will it or will it not go in? He's off just a hair. She is right there. Boom. So So there you go. There are your 6 little pucks, as I call them, in place. That's what locks this, made with this, to the drum. And of course, inside you see the spline for the input. The snap ring, obviously, you have to make sure goes over on top of the pucks, and there you have it. And obviously you want to make sure the ring is seated fully. We can see the pucks are retained by the ring, and this is going to be interesting because these clutches are wet. However, you want to make sure that they rotate. So there you go. There's your direct or high and low drum for Dynaflow. That is the assembly of it, and we'll do videos on the case. So the first thing I will show on the case, it has a rather large thrust washer, and new one. And in the very back of the case, she lays in there. Boom. Amazing. I'll show you this real quick and we'll call this one done. So, again, see our little round puck pieces? There's 6. Snap ring retains. There you go. And then our case, there's your thrust washer. So on top of this goes a band, the reverse band, and then we'll stack gear train up from there. But for now, this is this one. Thank you for watching.